Bigfoot, a 50-year journey come full circle, written by Dr. Matthew A. Johnson. I'm Willie Rose. We're reading the book, and we are on chapter 20, entitled The Bigfoot Teacher. This should be a good one. For years in the Southern Oregon Habituation Area, or SOHA, I continually asked my Bigfoot Forest people friends if they would please provide me with a teacher. During every trip, I would ask, "May I have a teacher? Provide me with a teacher? Can one of the elders be my teacher? I sure would like to learn more from you. May I have a teacher?" I would ask over and over again and again. I'm sure that I sounded like a broken record to them or fingernails on a chalkboard. In October of 2015, I took Miss Andrea Billups to the Southern Oregon Habituation Area, or SOHA. Although Miss Andrea grew up in West Virginia, she most definitely isn't a mountain girl. As I pointed out in a previous chapter, she is a girly girl, and pink is the color of her national flag. She did go camping once at age 11 and then didn't repeat the act until she came out with me several decades later. By profession, she's a journalist and has written for several major publications. She has participated in presidential campaign pools following the candidate around the country as they were running for president. She teaches journalism at the University of Florida. Upon her arrival to Oregon, keeping with tradition, we ate our first meal at the Black Bear Diner on 6th Street in Grants Pass, Oregon. I carefully instructed Miss Andrea that she was to follow the established protocol in SOHA to the letter of the law. Also, she was to behave like a Navy SEAL and be as strong as steel. Well, she managed to do all of the above. Matter of fact, she acted like she had been camping her whole life. I was impressed. While we were in SOHA, Miss Andrea had the opportunity to sort through her own curiosities and fears related to the Bigfoot Forest people. She had the opportunity to hear heavy-footed bipedal steps move around the perimeter of the base camp. She was able to see silhouettes accompanied by eye glow. She was able to hear some very awesome vocals. One night when we had several Bigfoot Forest people all around our base camp, both close and distant, we heard them taking turns trying to imitate an owl and eventually turn the noise into whooping and barking. It was both awesome and eerie. We were laying on our cots in the pitch dark of night when it took place. Although she was scared, she handled herself with great composure. Please go to SoundCloud.com and listen to the compilation of noises from her trip to SOHA in October of 2015. On another occasion, we were standing at the 12 o'clock position on the perimeter of the SOHA base camp in the pitch dark of night. Standing at the 11 o'clock position was an 8-foot-tall Bigfoot forest person. Also standing at the 1 o'clock position was a 9-foot-tall Bigfoot forest person. They were less than 10 feet away from us. Talk about awesome and intimidating at the same time. I'm almost 7 feet tall, and it's not that often that I'm made to feel small. On this occasion, I felt very small. Miss Andrea said, "Matt, remember that Navy SEAL thing? Well, on the outside, I'm a Navy SEAL, and I'm as strong as steel. However, on the inside, I'm freaking out." She chose to stare at the ground in order to avoid looking at the very tall and large being standing right in front of us. I told her that I thought she was doing a wonderful job managing her fear. I also reassured her that if the Bigfoot Forest people were menacing and dangerous, then we would be dead already. I'm not sure if she found those words to be very comforting. Nevertheless, she did a great job. My favorite interaction with the Bigfoot Forest people in Soha during my trip with Miss Andrea was when we had our sleeping cots together one night. We had a very large tarp covering the lower half of our sleeping bags. I strategically positioned the very large tarp so it would be easy to grab and pull up over the rest of our sleeping bags and our heads just in case it started to rain. In the middle of the night, I woke up and was laying there on my back. I had my hoodie up over my head to keep my noggin warm. I also slept with a t-shirt over my eyes. No matter where I sleep, I always have to place a t-shirt over my eyes. It's a quirky little habit that I developed while in high school. Anyway, as I lay there on my back, it started to rain. All of a sudden, I felt a tug on the tarp, and it was pulled from my waist up to my shoulders. Then I felt a second tug on the tarp, and it was pulled from my shoulders to over the top of my head. Then I felt a third tug on the tarp, and it was pulled from just over the top of my head all the way over to the ground, so no moisture could reach me. I thought that was very nice of Miss Andrea to take care of me like that and to keep us dry. I asked, Andrea, did you just pull the tarp over the top of us? She didn't answer me. Silence. Once again, I asked a little louder, Andrea, did you just pull the tarp over the top of us? Still no answer. I reached my hand over to her sleeping cot, and I couldn't feel her there. I immediately pulled the tarp from over the top of me and took the t-shirt off of my eyes. I turned my head to see if she was sitting on the porta-potty positioned near the head of our cots, just in case she needed to use it at night. She wasn't there. The next thing I envisioned was myself sitting on the other side of a table at the Josephine County Sheriff's Office trying to convince them that I didn't bury her body anywhere. Now I desperately shouted her name. Andrea! She responded, Yes, Matt. I asked, Where are you? She replied, Down here at the bottom of my sleeping bag. Well, did I ever feel the most awesome sense of relief. I was happy to learn that she was okay and that I wasn't going to jail. You see, Miss Andrea is a tiny gal and managed to curl up in a ball near the bottom of her sleeping bag. I asked her again, Did you pull the tarp over the top of us? She said, No, you just woke me up. Suddenly, I realized who had just pulled the tarp over the top of us. It was one of our Bigfoot Forest people friends. He saw that it was beginning to rain and decided to pull the tarp over both Miss Andrea and me to keep us dry. How cool is that? Talk about personalized service while Bigfooting up in the mountains. However, I do have to say that I'm just a tad bit disappointed that he neglected to turn down our beds earlier in the evening, nor did I find a mint on my pillow. He's going to have to step up his game. After I took Miss Andrea to her hotel near the Medford airport so she could fly back to Florida the next morning, I drove myself back up to Soha for a solo night. I had the time to spare and wanted some alone time with my Bigfoot Forest people friends. The usual stuff took place while I was up there alone. I heard heavy-footed bipedal walking, saw silhouettes and eye glow, saw the mom standing at the 3 o'clock position with her toddler on her shoulder, and heard vocals. Once again, this broken record asked for a teacher. I told them that I loved them and considered them to be part of my family. I hoped that they considered me to be part of their family. I was practically begging them to provide me with a teacher. No response. Eventually, I went to bed and slept like a baby that night. There's absolutely nothing like being up on a mountaintop all by yourself in the pitch dark of night, totally surrounded by several Bigfoot forest people, and knowing that you're 100% totally safe because they've got your back while you're sleeping. They will even pull the tarp over you if it starts raining. I was very pleased with the progression of our developing relationship. The next morning, I packed up camp into the back of my F-150 pickup truck. After I had everything loaded, I heard a mind speak asking me to read from my Bible to them. Over time, I've learned that they love to listen to the four Gospels as well as the epistles of Paul. After I was done reading to them, I closed my Bible and started walking toward my truck. Suddenly, I was stopped in my tracks by a very strong and loud mind speak. You're our teacher. That's why we bring our children to you. I responded in my own mind. Excuse me? The Bigfoot forest person repeated himself even more strongly. You're our teacher. That's why we bring our children to you. We trust you to teach them. We have given you a guardian to protect you and keep you safe because you are our teacher. Suddenly, the tarp being pulled over Miss Andrea and me on the previous night finally made sense. He must have been the guardian that was assigned to me because they gave me the designated role of a teacher to their children. I asked, "Who is my guardian, and may I know his name?" I was told that my guardian was the adolescent male in Soha and that his name is Seska. I was so happy to hear the news because I literally watched Seska grow up during my 10 years in Soha. I saw him grow from approximately 5 feet tall the first time I saw him to around 7.5 feet tall by this point in time. I used to look down at him, but now I look up at him. Needless to say, I drove off the mountain one very happy camper. During the following month, Mike Kincaid came up from the San Francisco Bay Area to spend a couple of nights with me in Soha. We didn't allow the cold November nights to discourage us from being there. I first came across Mike a few years earlier when he contacted me to let me know that he found Soha online. I had no idea who he was and responded, "Uh-huh, sure you did." He responded back, "No, seriously, I did." Then he sent me a Google Earth pic of the Soha base camp and my heart sank. I thought to myself, crap, a troll finally found Soha. However, with Mike, that wasn't the case. He was genuinely and sincerely concerned about the security of the location of Soha. He advised me what I needed to do in order to make the area more secure. His integrity and sweet spirit won him a trip to Soha. Over the past few years, we've become great friends. I love him like a brother. The Bigfoot forest people at Soha love Mike too. They playfully interact with him every time he comes to visit. On one occasion, they saw him playing with a rather large and thick stick that had obviously been snapped in two. We were a couple 100 yards away from camp when he found it. It was about 1.5 feet long. Mike was playing with it like it was a puzzle. He kept putting it together and pulling it apart. Eventually, he laid it back on the ground, and we walked all the way back to camp. The following morning, we got up to retrieve the gifting bowls at sunrise. As we began our short trek on the trail to reach the bowls, I stopped Mike and said, "Come back here, please." He walked back to the trailhead at the base camp. I asked, "Isn't that the same stick you were playing with yesterday at the other end of the trail?" He replied, "Yes." Then I asked him, "You didn't carry it back to camp, did you? I thought I saw you put it back down on the ground where you found it, right?" He responded, "Yes." I said, "Mike, I think they saw you playing with it and they brought it to the base camp to leave it as a gift for you." Mike picked up the long and thick stick and noticed that one of the pieces had been snapped in half again. Now he had 3 pieces to play with as he put the puzzle together, took it apart, and then put it back together. I asked Mike to give me one of the pieces. I tried with everything I had to snap that piece in half, and I couldn't even come close to doing so. I said, "Mike, they obviously like you. You're going to take that home with you because they gifted it to you." Mike insisted that I take it home with me since Soho was my research area. I said, "No, Mike, that's their gift to you. I don't want to take your gift home with me. Besides, you can show it off to your family." Mike smiled and said, "That would be cool." Back to our November of 2015 trip, Mike and I were enjoying our time together in Soho. While we were walking around, I noticed that Mike was limping. Apparently, his leg was sore from playing so much basketball. Well, I wasn't the only one who saw him limping. The next morning, the blanket and tarp had been pulled off of Mike's sleeping cot and placed neatly on the ground at the foot of his bed. We both thought it was very peculiar. When he finally got up out of bed and started walking around, he noticed that his pain was gone. He wasn't limping anymore. He said, "I think they healed me in my sleep." I told him that I agreed with his assessment. However, being a friend who loves him like a brother, I also said to him, "Unfortunately, I don't think they healed your face. It's still hurting me." We both laughed. We have both my son, Grady, and Howie Gordon to thank for their endless face jokes. During our last night at Soho, I was sleeping like a baby again. My cot was placed in a parallel position about 3 feet away from my truck. I had my bionic ear parabolic microphone dish and Sony digital recorder running all night long. I woke up shortly after 4 a.m. I was sleeping on my left side facing the truck. As always, I had my hoodie over the top of my head to keep my noggin warm. I also had a t-shirt draped over my eyes. As I laid there on my cot, I asked in my mind, "Are you still there?" My guardian Seska walked between me and the truck, bent over and said in my ear, "Yes." Pause. "Right here beside you." I immediately took the t-shirt off of my eyes and I couldn't see him because he was cloaked. Nevertheless, I heard him walk back to his position at the head of my cot and stand there. I looked at my watch and saw that it was 4:05 a.m. When I returned home, I did the math. I knew that I started recording at 8 p.m. sharp on the previous night. I knew that he said, "Yes, pause right here beside you" at 4:05 a.m. Therefore, all I had to do was fast forward 8 hours and 5 minutes into the recording in order to find the vocal. Well, I did exactly that. Guess what I found? That's right. Yes, pause, right here beside you. Now, please think about this for a moment. Seska is not dumb. He knew that I was recording all night long. He could have responded back to my question via MindSpeak. Instead, he intentionally chose to walk between me and the bionic ear parabolic microphone dish and vocalize, "Yes, pause right here beside you. Don't believe me? Think I'm full of crap? Well, guess what I'm going to tell you to do. That's right. Please go to soundcloud.com and type in Team Squatchin' USA. Go listen to the vocal for yourself. Please keep in mind that he said it in his squatchy tone of voice rather than in a human dialect. It's an amazing recording. All of the above was a major confirmation that indeed I had been assigned the role of teacher for the youth of the Bigfoot Forest People family and their clan. That indeed I had been given a guardian because of my designation as the teacher. He not only stood by the head of my cot all night long in Soha every night, but he also followed me home and spends more nights than not standing in my bedroom watching over me. How do I know? I've heard him shifting his weight on the wood floor. I've heard him talk in his squatchy tone of voice. The first few nights he was in my room, he let out the squatchy smell full force. I almost gagged on the smell. No, it wasn't me farting underneath the bed covers. My farts don't smell anything like the unique squatchy smell. After a few times, I asked him to tone it down several notches, so he did. Finally, after the very first night he showed up in my bedroom without having said anything to anyone, Grady told me that he saw Seska walking down the hill in the backyard toward the Rogue River. Grady described him perfectly. I know all of the above sounds crazy to you. However, just a public service reminder. I don't lie, and I don't hoax. If I said it happened, guess what? It happened. My track record is perfect. Multiple witnesses and circumstantial evidence back up my research. Go watch the YouTube videos, listen to the SoundCloud.com audio recordings, and read the individual testimonies in the back of the book. Besides, you haven't seen crazy yet. There's still more to share with you as we slide down the rabbit hole together. End of chapter 20. Yeah, that was a short one. We go on to chapter 21 next. That one, oh my goodness. The Trolls Invade Soha. The book, Bigfoot, A 50-Year Journey Come Full Circle, is written by Dr. Matthew A. Johnson. I'm Willie Rose.